Hey everyone, Dev with Crime Hive, and in this true crime video, we're talking about this man right here, Sean Higgins, and how he exploited some teens online. Now, we're all, worldwide, a lot of us are online and frequently online, and if you have children and they're online, they're susceptible to this type of behavior from this man right here. So we're going to talk about this, and this is actually a press release from heinous, comes from New Jersey, and I'll just pull that out here. So it's in New Jersey. If you look, you got Philadelphia right here, and if you zoom in here, just south of Trenton, it's this little place called heinous, if that's what I'm saying correctly. And this guy right here is a youth pastor. So pretty creepy here. I mean, this guy was really a true wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. And so I'm going to read this press release just to give you guys the information and also provide a couple resources at the end of this here. If you have children and they're online, just something to think about here. So this guy, what he does, he blackmails these teenage boys, and what he was charged with is essentially and I'll just go through the press release as it's going through. He would go on social media and basically blackmail them into having them send photos and video of them nude, and he would further exploit them from there. So he went through this process, and he was actually charged with 28 crimes. And what's creepy about him as well is he served as a teacher in addition to that at a private K through 12 school. There's approximately 75 students, so there could be further victimization here, and I'll talk about how you can report that if you happen to be in that area, or there's a couple other things I'll point out as well. But what we do know, several charges here that he's looking at, and the age range from 12 to 15, several different states, and as far as they know, there was no physical contact involved with these victims. But again, he was involved with youth, so there may be more charges coming down the line. And he was taken into custody at his residence. What investigators talked about here was they went to his home after their investigation. They forced their way in. He wouldn't open the door. They had served a search warrant and served that warrant where multiple electronic devices were seized. So from that investigation, after they seized all this, they really had this the snapshot of what happened. And so this is what he would typically do. He would, and this is where it talks about it here, he would basically pose as this female youth, and he would go by the name, let me see if I can find it, Julie Miller. So I'm going to use this little edit tool here too. So Julie Miller, if you guys are following me around here, or variations of it, Julia Miller. And he would go on to Snapchat, and he would go on to Instagram, and he would begin these conversations with these other males. And then he would establish rapport with them. So he would start talking to them, things they like. Next thing you know, he's sending them pictures of this unidentified female. And then he would get them, the teenage boys, to then send photos as well. Well, then from there, it would proceed into, can you send nude photos? He would send nude photos, and then in return, these teenage boys would then send nude photos to him. So from there, as soon as they did that, what he would do is, as soon as he received those images, it says that he would take a screenshot of the victim's friends list on their social media, and he would immediately tell them, that he was going to threaten to send these photos and images or videos to his friends unless they continued to listen to him, and he would further exploit them from there. So what he would do from there is he literally would warn them and say things like, "I've got you," and he would make them engage in further sexual activity. So pretty crazy. I mean, very, very disturbing. What he would do, it says, it goes on in this press release, is he would demand the victims go into the bathroom at their residence, and he would have them put a phone on the floor looking up, and he would have them perform like these sexual acts on themselves, and he would further record it. So he would have this, and he had them locked in this trap, if you will, and he would continue this process. So Many people were victimized by this. We learn as we go through that, these victims were, young kids, practically begging him to stop, and he would continue to threaten and demand, and it would just continue. So finally, one of the boys, apparently, it talks about how he actually contacted Snapchat. It says it right here in the release. He contacted Snapchat, and he reported that he had sent these nude photos of himself to this unknown female, and the person had threatened to expose his photographs, and so it started an investigation. Multiple law enforcement agencies got involved in this, and this is where I'm going to give you some of the different resources if you're a parent. I'm not a parent, but if you happen to be, a lot of different resources out there, because this is a huge issue. And so he was arrested. Luckily, a few boys went to Snapchat, started this investigation, and went through the channels and wound up in several different hands for these law enforcement agencies. So we'll talk about a couple of them that really get involved in these types of cases here. And one of them always involved in these is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. So if you were to go to icactaskforce.org, sites right there, and it's a great resource. They got a ton of different tools, resources where you can learn about this. You can actually report these cyber tips online. You can call a 1-800 number if you suspect a child's being exploited, or one of your children is being exploited. Great resource right there. And then if you go into the FBI website here, great resource. Or if you just go to fbi.gov/investigate, if you go through there, a lot of different resources as well that I'll talk just a little bit about. And if you go down towards the bottom, it gives a bunch of different links here. So a lot of these different external resources, the National Cyber Tip Line, this one right here, another tip line where you can report these if someone's being exploited. They got another 1-800 number. There's a lot of free resources out there and tips to help parents and help start the conversations, these uncomfortable conversations that parents need to have with their children, so they're aware of the things that can happen. And so there's that resource. This one's a really good one that I've looked at here, NetSmarts, and so it's actually missingkids.org. If you've heard of that website, a lot of different resources to educate children about being online and the dangers of that. So that's a good one. And then really the other one I'd point out here that they mentioned was the National Child Identification Program, childidprogram.com. It actually gives your child a kit, and you can essentially, it's an at-home kit where you can get their fingerprint, you can get their DNA, and you can get all this information stored at home in case they were missing, in case something were to happen, and it will help investigators in the investigation and trying to locate the child or trying to find them safely if they're captured, or if there's some sort of ransom, anything like that. Very good resource there. The only other thing that I'll mention here, another really cool tool with the FBI, is they have the Child ID app, and that's essentially another secure way for parents to basically get photos and secure information in the app, and you can download it. Let me see if I can pull it up here. This is a different website here, so I'm going to go up to this here. It's the FBI Child ID app. You can download it. So this is what it looks like right here. And it just, you could store pictures, vital information, it says, that would help investigators, if they have certain features that you want to document, maybe a scar, birthmark, their physical description, all that information can be stored in that app safely. So I wanted to point that out again, because it's pretty crazy when you're looking at a guy like this who posed as a young girl, was able to exploit so many different boys. Now, the thing I want to mention, if you happen to be in that area, this is the Burlington County, police department, basically. Their phone number, email right here. I'll provide that below. And if your child, or you suspect your child may have interacted with somebody with the name of Julie Miller or Julia Miller, some variation of that name, it says, to call them. Now, there's other states involved, so if you're looking at your children's information on their phone, take a look at that. Make sure they're not having these bizarre conversations with people like him. And that's the end of this video. Just wanted to create awareness on that, and I will be back with another video soon. You all take care. This is Dev with Crime Hive. Thanks.